Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the App Business Podcast, coming to you live on Blab again. So if you haven't caught up the previous few news episodes, what we've been doing is we're actually recording live on Blab. It is Thursday, 4 p.m. Pacific time. Is that right, Chris?
Yep.
And we plan on doing these for the next few weeks at least. So if you're interested in coming and joining us, come join us. If you're listening to the recording, if you're watching this on Blab and it's a recording, give us some props, a few high fives. You just click our little picture and that gives us some high fives. Don't know if it does anything, but high fives are cool. So, yeah, go ahead. All right, so this week, we've got a bunch of stuff this week to cover. Things about Apple TV, iPad Pro, a bunch of others.
It seems like it ebbs and flows, doesn't it? Like some weeks we have like 3 topics, and this one, we have like 10.
Exactly. So which one do you reckon we start on, Chris?
Let's start with the Apple TV. A lot of the, some of these are quick hitters, but they're worth telling the community about if they haven't seen it elsewhere. So the first one's kind of a quick hitter, but it's the first Apple TV ad SDK that I've seen. Blab.im announced that they are supporting, or they've released an SDK for showing ads for Apple TV apps, which is cool to see that moving in that direction and happening so fast.
Yeah, I haven't heard too much about Apple TV and any big app success stories over there yet. I'm sure it'll happen eventually, but I just haven't heard any stories. But this is interesting to see that it's opening up advertising as a monetization option for apps over there.
Yep. And they made a point in the article that I thought was good, is that the larger format, for one, people are used to seeing ads on the TV, and video and those things are normal, and there's no need to like tap or interact. You could, but so it's like a natural. No one's going to be putting banner ads. Well, they might, but no one should be putting banner ads on their Apple TV apps to monetize, just because it just there's better formats for there's established proven formats for TV.
Yeah, definitely. No one's going to point their Apple TV remote at a banner ad and click on it. You wouldn't think so anyway, but who knows?
Right.
But yeah, very interesting. It might skew towards those big budget publishers with really good videos and things, promotional videos and things like that. But we'll just have to wait and see.
Well, or if you have an Apple TV app and you mean as a publisher or as a marketer? For sure, the big games will be marketing through that medium, but it seems to me that would be we don't have any data on like what the eCPMs are or anything like that, but you got to think that that's gonna, it almost seems like the bigger the screen, the more you make per 1,000 viewers, right?
So I was talking from a marketer, so from the guys that own Clash of Clans, they're going to be really keen to get their ads on the TV.
Yep.
Because they got these big budget videos. But yeah, from a publisher perspective, seems pretty cool. Video ads.
It's good news.
Yeah. All right. Straight on to Tim Cook talking about the iPad Pro.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a pretty short one as well. The iPad Pro came out yesterday. Apple released it officially. Tim Cook's been doing a lot of, promos and speaking and stuff around it. And basically he declared it the other day as the end of the PC. So, a lot of people don't disagree with it, but it's interesting to see that that's Apple's positioning on this one.
Well, and we had talked about that when they had first, what was that? The consumer event one where they do it. And they showed all it could do, and Adobe went up there and showed how you can do designs, and they have software just built for the iPad Pro. And it did look like a notebook killer. And so there's actually a couple things about this that I think are interesting. One, we had kind of talked about roundabout ways that Apple was really going strong into the enterprise with partnerships with, they announced IBM a year ago, but then Cisco and some enterprise app developers like Salesforce and those kind of companies. But it looks like this is their killer. This is how they're doing it. And it's funny to hear so often in this space, you don't hear people just come right out and say it, let alone the CEO saying, yep, this is what we're doing. And he just says, no, this is our play. Why would anyone want a notebook?
Yep.
And it's cool. And I get it. Like I I get it for a bunch of reasons. So I got 2 points on that. One, our friend who we've never met, but I like his stuff, Benedict Evans, over at Andreessen Horowitz, A16Z.com or benevans.com. He just had a post talking about, hey, when we talk about mobile and we talk about PCs, it's not just the hardware that we're talking. Well, it's the hardware, but it's not the out exterior that we're talking about. Where is a notebook, is an iPad a mobile device, or is it like a PC because it's replacing the PC? And what defines it isn't the form factor or if it has a keyboard or not. What defines it is the interior. And so is it Windows and Intel, or is it the traditionally what we call mobile, Android, iOS, ARM? And it just kind of all comes together where Tim Cook's basically saying, hey, even if, well, he's not saying it, but if he's saying that the iPad Pro is the desktop or PC killer, he means, look, it's going to be iOS and ARM, which is the microprocessor. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's not going to look like a PC or something else, right? It's just going to be that new, what do you call that? Ecosystem or combination of technologies. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I think it's going to be a no-brainer. Well, I don't know if it's going to be a no-brainer because I'm not in the industry, but I can imagine like graphic designers and artists and things like that, maybe just grabbing one and running with that instead of a PC or a laptop.
So I asked a designer in the co-working space.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And I asked the right guy because a co-working space is like a bunch of desks, and he brings in his big monitor and everything like into a co-working space. So it's a strange thing to do, I would think. And he says, dude, there's no way that designers are going to be designing on iPads because they want the processing power and the full, all the
I guess the machine. That makes sense, yeah, because there's a whole post, there's the drawing aspect of it, but after that there's a whole post-processing like element to it where they do a heap of work that's in tools like, just normal software tools where they're not actually drawing, they're going ahead and doing whatever else it is they do.
Yeah, what I would call it processing, but whatever that means, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, just another quick thing on Tim Cook. He actually came out today. He's on a roll. So the quote about being a PC killer was yesterday. Today he says, Apple's Tim Cook says cash will be dead for the next generation of kids, because this isn't super newsworthy because it really hasn't happened yet, but Apple's developing a way for people to transfer funds in between each other. So I could send Andrew money through an Apple app. And I guess they're looking at partnerships with banks for that. And that's where this quote came from. But he's making a lot of big predictions in the last 2 days.
Isn't he? Yeah. Just on the graphic design thing, I just noticed eBoy mentioned in the chat there that the new age of designers might be keen on the iPad Pro. And then I checked up, and turns out eBoy, or Mr. Wonderful, is he's a graphic designer himself. So it's pretty cool to have some input from somebody who's directly involved in the industry. And
by the way, that's why it's so awesome to do these live things, because a lot of times we're giving news and giving our ideas, but we're not perfect at everything. As much as it seems like we're super cool, we're not amazing at everything.
Definitely not.
Yeah. So thanks. Mr. Wonderful and eBoy are the same people?
Yeah. Okay. But he says he wouldn't use it, but yeah, maybe the new age of designers might come through. That's why I was laughing.
Yeah. All right.
Love the honesty. But, I can see that, because the new age coming through probably won't be as invested in these software tools that current designers are using and stuff like that. Maybe that's the thought process behind it. Interesting.
All right, I'll take the next one. Swerve, SWRVE. We just actually did reviewed one of their reports on monetization, and they just received or raised another $30 million in funding, Series C, which probably means their fourth round, depending on how you count those things. And they bought marketing automation company Adaptive.io. It's Adaptive without the E, if you want to look it up. And that was an equity deal, so they didn't use any of the $30 million to buy or acquire Adaptive.io. why this is newsworthy is because you're starting to see, well, one, marketing automation being used in mobile apps, especially a company like Swerve, which is about kind of like marrying optimization and of analytics optimization for monetization to kind of like pull all that together. They're going to be able to use this marketing automation to then to help big brands reach inside of different games and find the right time and the right place to give, display an ad, let's say, or make an offer for a discount of something. And it's just kind of I wrote a note here, omni-channel marketing. Well, that was actually the title of the post, but it's more of like whatever you want to call it, mobile first, mobile centric, omni-channel, which means, it could be any screen size or, whatever. As these companies start to be acquired and these, directions start to become more clear, I think omni-channel is going to quickly move to, that term is going to start sounding a lot like mobile first, given how often we're using our smartphones. Was that too much in one statement?
I understand where you're going with it. I'm glad you addressed the omni-channel thing. I was going to ask you what your understanding of omni-channel was, because they didn't really cover it in the article. I think that's a pretty good summary.
I mean, basically omni-channel, as I understand it, is saying, look, you don't need to have a different Facebook ad campaign than you would have a TV commercial, that you would have a Google ad campaign, that you would have a, Facebook audience network campaign. You should be able to hit, and we're not just talking initial touches, we're talking retargeting and re-engagement, all this kind of stuff, right? It should be a coherent story across platforms with the user being in the middle, right? Wherever they're interacting with your brand.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Totally agree.
But my thinking with that is that, one, it's interesting that Swerve is the one that's kind of spearheading that acquisition with that approach. And then because of how much time everyone spends on their smartphones, and because even though we call PCs personal computers, really smartphones are the personal computers. Smartphones, there's nothing more. It's like your computer appendage, right? And so if you want to say the person's the center of it, well, then that means the mobile app or the mobile device is the center of it right now. So,
yep.
Yeah, it's just kind of like a mobile first take on that. I think we'll see.
Yeah, I think so too. Next one, you want to move on to the next one?
Mm-hmm.
Welcome. Gerard just joined us, so welcome, Gerard. Good to have you in here. And guys, don't forget, if you like what we're saying, hit the props button. I think you tap on our picture, gives us some high fives, some props. All right, next one is, that's going to sound weird to people listening on the podcast, but people who've joined us on Blab know what I'm talking about. Next one's Tencent. So Tencent it's a huge Chinese internet and game company. They own a bunch of things like Riot Games, which is League of Legends, and they've got investments. We've talked about this before. They've got investments all over the place, like Epic Games, Glue Mobile, Robot Entertainment. Anyway, so basically they just released their latest quarterly results and massive increase in revenue. So they grew their mobile game revenue by 60% for the quarter, and they made 1.19 billion in profit. So we often hear about these Western companies doing big things, but this it's good to see what's happening sort of outside the Western market as well.
Well, they are and they're the Chinese mobile app. Like we don't have, I guess you could say it'd be like a Clash of Clans and Activision and Facebook combined would be like what Tencent is in China. But right. But what's cool, what was especially cool for reading that article was while their overall profits revenue and profits were both up significantly, like 30% year over year, their mobile was twice the average. Like their mobile was 60%. We've seen and talked a little bit about what's happening in Asia, Southeast Asia, breaking it up by geo, Japan, South Korea, India. The adoption and use of mobile apps is insane. I think Japan is the best monetizing per mobile user. And a lot of the app names are in different characters than we even can recognize, right? Unless you speak Mandarin. So we just don't even know what that's saying, what these apps are. But if you review the App Annie top global reports, there's always some Chinese and Japanese maybe some Korean apps in there. But yeah, so anyways, that company is just killing it with that.
Yeah, like to give you an idea of the size, of all public companies, so globally, Tencent makes the most revenue from video games in the world. So that just shows you the sheer size of the company.
Yeah. And they're also the guys that have the messaging app that is the default messaging app in China. So
is it WeChat?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
So they have the number one messaging app, and by the way, also the biggest game company in the world.
Yeah, and they're a telecom company as well, I think. So they're not just all in mobile and mobile games. They've got other business interests as well. So crazy.
All right, this is another kind of quick hitter, but what's cool is with Facebook's ad network, especially like over the last 2 years, their emphasis in mobile, they've been able, they can provide data that other companies just can't provide. And one of the data points they shared kind of going into the holiday season, and also kind of, it's not because Apple released a shopping section in the App Store, but it's, with that, Facebook says nearly a third of the online shopping transactions. So basically they're measuring that by people who click through an ad and then buy something, are happening via mobile devices and skewed to the, younger people.
Yep.
So younger age groups, which is big news. We've been following that in different episodes where buy buttons are becoming easier and different things are happening to make, auto form fill outs and different ways of making it easier to buy something on a mobile device as opposed to just being a research vehicle. And here we are, this is like in the last 6 months, some of these enhancements have come out, or last 3 months, and already a third of purchases are mobile. So pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's huge. Like traditionally we would see people would research an item on mobile, or they'd discover an item on mobile. Then they'd go back to their PC when they got home and they'd actually complete the purchase. So it's interesting to see the shift.
Yeah.
With more people actually just going ahead and completing the purchase on mobile.
Yep.
I think there's probably two things to that. People are becoming more comfortable with it, and companies, brands, retailers are making it easier to complete the purchase on a mobile device. We're seeing all these different payment solutions coming out now. We've talked about what Stripe are doing in that space and a bunch of others.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to pull out your credit card and sit there on your mobile device and try to type in your credit card info and everything. It's all just, becoming just tap, 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 done.
Yep.
So pretty cool. And we've talked about e-commerce apps before as well. So we won't dig into that one again. We've probably done it to death, but there's even more reason to look at that.
Mm-hmm. Want me to take the next one?
Go for it.
We're kind of flying through these, actually.
We are.
So let's do I'll do the Google one. So basically, Google, they never do a press release. It's always like in an interview or something like that. And so, let's see, the CEO of Alphabet, is that right? It's hard to keep track of who's doing it.
Yeah, which is the new parent company, sort of umbrella company for Google, right?
Who reports to the president, which is Larry Page,
anyway.
Right? Yeah, okay. So basically, about 6 months ago, Google actually in a blog post said that local search happened more, local mobile surpassed local desktop search, right? So if someone were looking for something, like a location of something, more of that was happening on mobile, which makes sense, right? Well, now mobile search in general, not just local, mobile search has surpassed desktop search worldwide. Mm-hmm. And that's a big deal. That's Absolutely. A huge deal, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I got a bunch of comments on that, but I'm going to let you go first.
Well, I mean, it's just big in the fact that, and what we're saying is it's just people opening their mobile phone, going to Google and searching. Yeah. That's mobile search. Yeah. And there's more of that happening. There's probably a couple of reasons again for that. So it's people are going to Google on their phone. People are probably using the Google app. There's an actual Google search app, but Google Play and Apple are making it easier to auto search like with Apple Spotlight now, if you search, it'll automatically search the web, same as Siri. You can ask Siri questions and it'll automatically go to Google and find answers. And Google Play have got their own version of that as well. So hit us, Chris. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think my takeaway from this is that, kind of related to like my perspective on the Swerve acquisition, is at this point, marketing, any kind of digital marketing, whether it be email marketing, whether it's social media presence or marketing, whether it's Facebook ads, whether it's what is it called when you have an ad in Google but it's not an image, like search ads?
AdWords.
Yeah, AdWords. Yeah. All of these things, even your website, it's all mobile first. Like it's not mobile first because some marketer told you that you need to be mobile first, or it's not mobile first because that's what the cool kids are doing. It's mobile first because that's where your users are consuming the thing that you're doing, whether it's your social media posts, whether they're opening their email from their mobile device, whether they're seeing your ad as a result of a Google search, whether they're seeing your ad in their Facebook newsfeed from the Facebook mobile app, everything. I mean, anything digitally is now happening more on mobile than it is on desktop. So almost and this just happened, it seems like it's happened really fast, but any digital marketing now is it needs to be considering your mobile user first before what someone my age just thinks, oh, well, email is an app on your desktop, and it might even be Outlook, and it's just not that anymore. Everything's mobile first, not because it's a cool catchword, but because that's where everyone's viewing this stuff.
Yeah, whether you've shifted and have built a mobile-friendly website, built a mobile app, whether or not you've done that, that's the channel your users are going to come through. So they're either going to see an ugly website and no mobile app if you haven't got one, or if you optimized for it, then they're going to get a way better experience. That's
the way to say it. It's not like if the marketing person says to do it or because the cool kids are doing it. It doesn't matter what you're doing, whether you're adjusting your behavior or not. Your marketing is mobile because that's where the consumers are. Whether your site's optimized or not, they're going to see it through a mobile device.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, next one we're going to talk about. So this is a bit of a strange one, I thought.
Okay.
So Time Inc. So Time, like as in, I'm assuming this is like Time Magazine.
Yeah.
They've partnered with Etamax, who are the Buenos Aires-based company who are responsible for the app Trivia Crack. You've probably all heard of Trivia Crack. Basically, it's a trivia app where you can submit your own questions and stuff. It's a sort of a socially interactive trivia app. And Time have partnered with those guys basically to develop the sequel for Trivia Crack. That's pretty much the article. And the reason, I guess, is Time, just like a lot of big companies now, they want to get into this mobile space, and this is their play.
Super crazy.
Game, I wouldn't have picked their mobile play to have been a trivia game. That's why it's crazy to me.
Yeah. So in the article, it talks about 12,000 questions related to its brands, and we'll rattle off some brands here, but like what? You know what I mean? So for people who just think of Time Magazine, and there's an old saying, Andrew, I don't know if you know this one, but Bob Dylan was famous for saying, if you want to know what's going on, you don't open a Time Magazine, meaning like that's your parents' magazine, right? That's what you read in the dentist office. It's not to know what's going on. Well, Time also owns Sports Illustrated, People Magazine, Food and Wine, Fortune, Travel and Leisure, and Style, Entertainment Weekly. So they have a whole bunch of brands here that are all going to be part of this Trivia Crack Time or Trivia Crack 2 or whatever it's going to be.
Trivia Crack Kingdoms.
Kingdoms. Yeah, I see it's here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't understand what the questions were going to be. Like what? Like,
okay.
What could possibly be a question? And they have 12,000 of them?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, could it be, who was on the cover of Sports Illustrated in 1998 March edition? I don't know. It could be, who knows?
Yeah, that's crazy. But it's awesome because it shows how, just coming off the last thing we just talked about, where, look, no matter if you're ready for them or not, your marketing is mobile. Whether you're doing it or not, it already is, right? Kind of like this, like time needs to get into the mobile space. And we already figured out that mobile magazines didn't really take off, right? In fact, that the App Store section like that is closed. The ad blocking just creates bigger issues with monetizing content like that you would normally have subscribers for. So, these guys are trying to figure out a way to get into this space before they become, literally before they become irrelevant. It happens fast. So, it seems like a weird fit, but maybe they're just saying, look, we got to try something.
Yeah, that's probably what it comes down to. And it's probably smart that it's outside of the box. Like they could have just gone down the path of let's make a digital magazine app and put all our content in there and that's our only app kind of thing. But this is kind of branching out into using their content still to create questions and then branching out into the mobile gaming space as well. So it's probably more of a hedging play as well.
So how much do you think Time pays Ettermax to include 12,000 questions in their app?
Who knows?
It's just a weird, how would you charge for that?
Well, do they charge or is it just like because Ettermax don't have, that's instant content, Maybe it's like you give us 12,000 questions, we'll give you 20% of revenue. There'd be some sort of deal there.
Yeah, maybe.
Who knows what that looks like?
Yeah.
And like the fact that this is like the fact that Time is so big, it's making news. Like this is free publicity for Ettermax as well. And Time are most likely going to, you mentioned all their properties they've got, all their magazines they've got. If they go and publish an ad on the day that this new trivia app is released in all those magazines, it's pretty good. It's pretty good reach.
Yeah,
good,
absolutely.
Promo as well.
Absolutely.
So it's not like it's a one-sided deal by any means, I think. But yeah, to answer your question, I got no idea what that deal looks like.
Yeah, it reminds me of our conversation with Carter or Thomas when we had him on the podcast, and he said, "Look, where you're going to make money over the next 12 months is finding ways to connect these properties, these non-mobile properties, these big brands with tons of money and tons of followers with mobile apps. Whether you make a mobile app for them or you find a way to connect them to a trivia crack." So, maybe it looks something more like, can you name these 10 islands sponsored to you by Travel and Leisure Magazine?
Yeah, absolutely. There's tons of opportunity there for that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
What's up, Marlo? Good to have you in the chat.
I thought this episode was going to take us an hour.
How long has it been? I haven't even looked at the time.
Like 30 minutes. No problem, man.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Sweet. So that pretty much wraps it up.
So guys, while the guys who are down here listening live, if we missed anything, put it in the chat now and we can see if we can hit it. But yeah, I think there was a lot that happened this week for it being no major announcements from any of the Four Horsemen or anything like that. So, another busy.
Yeah, and look, I think what we can do with these, like, it's good to see we're getting a bit more interaction in these Blab sessions. If you guys do have any questions during the week, or you'd like us to talk about anything, either flick us an email, get in touch on Twitter, or just save your questions, join us on the Blab next week and ask them live, and we'll be happy to talk about that sort of stuff as well.
Yep. All right.
But really enjoying this format, and we'll be here again next week, same time.
Thanks, guys.